Welcome to Lamport. My name is Giles Isham. I was the last member of the Isham family to live here, and I'm going to tell you the story of Lamport Hall, the story of my home. I have two great passions, theatre and Lamport Hall. Let me tell you a little about myself, if you don't mind. I was born in 1903. After reading history at Oxford, I became an actor. I had a pretty successful career, you know. I appeared in 9 American films, including playing Levin in Anna Karenina, alongside Greta Garbo. Since then, I've spent a long time pondering how best to tell the story of my beloved home. And then the thought struck me, why not get together some of my old acting friends? I could give a tour of the house and they could perform scenes involving the various characters. They would have to play multiple roles, of course. There have been quite a few Ishams over the years, but it would make me so happy to be able to employ some of my old friends. Let me introduce you to my fellow actors. This is Sam. Sam was at Oxford with me. He will be playing all but one of the male Ishams. I thought it would be wonderful to have the same actor playing the Ishams, get a sense of family resemblance. Sam will be playing John Isham, Sir Justinian Isham, Sir Thomas Isham, Sir Justinian the Silent Baronet, and Sir Charles Isham. Here is Helen, a fine actress. She played Ophelia to my Hamlet and stole the scene. She will be playing Dorothy Osborne, Elizabeth Isham, and Mary Isham. And last, but by no means least, this is James, a character actor, who used to take the supporting roles while I was performing with the Oxford University Dramatic Society. James will be playing Sir William Cecil and Zacchaeus Isham. Now, in all honesty, I have no idea how this works. We did not have this technology in my day. But here goes. If you see a QR code, you can scan it by using your mobile phone. The codes are scattered around in different rooms, and each code will take you to an introduction by me and a scene from Lamport's history, performed by the small but excellent cast I have assembled. Enjoy the tour.
This is the first of the Lamport Ishams. John Isham, 1525 to 1596. He bought the land where Lamport now stands for £610 in 1560. The land previously belonged to Sir William Cecil, chief adviser to Queen Elizabeth I for much of her reign. John must have been rather nervous in their meeting. I hope you will enjoy a scene performed by Sam and James, imagining the conversation between John Isham and Sir William.
The word is you wish to buy some of my land. Is that so?
You have heard correctly, Sir William. If it was in accordance with your wishes, I should like to purchase some of your land in Northamptonshire, sir.
Where?
In Northamptonshire, sir.
Where in Northamptonshire? I own a lot of land in Northamptonshire and elsewhere.
No, I do apologise, sir. In Lamport, sir.
That is expensive land, I'm afraid.
I've worked hard as a wool merchant, and I'm proud to say I've earned myself a modest fortune.
A modest fortune? How fascinating. And where have you acquired this modest fortune?
Why? By the very clothes you wear, sir. I trade wool for fine silks. In fact, I'm sure I imported some material very similar to that your doublet is made of only a week ago.
Indeed, but surely this merchant income is not enough to buy land worthy of a gentleman.
Yes, sir. I will share the purchase of the land with my brother.
Another clothing merchant, is he?
No, sir. My other brothers are indeed merchants. However, Robert, my other brother, is a priest.
A priest? He should be eschewing wealth rather than accruing it, shouldn't he?
Perhaps, sir, but wealth he has all the same, and he is willing to enter into this venture with me.
And what do you plan on doing with the land once you have it?
I will make it profitable, sir. Perhaps farm sheep. I will see.
You seem very vague for a merchant. I cannot believe a merchant would be willing to purchase land on such flimsy prospects.
In truth, sir, I have a son who is weak and frail. I'd like a fine place for him to live outside of the city. He'd benefit from the air and the space.
Ah, a doting father, not a merchant. Well, you've won me over. You may have the land, but for £610. I'm no fool.
Thank you, sir. I will accept your offer.
This is Helen, and she is playing Elizabeth Isham. She lived from 1609 to 1654. She is writing her diary, the Book of Remembrance, which many believe to be the first ever autobiography. Regrettably, there is no painting of her, particularly as her contribution to Lamport and indeed the world was so extraordinary. If you scan the QR codes around this room, you will be able to view Helen performing extracts from Elizabeth's life, based on her Book of Remembrance.
Now I arrive at the age of 18, in better strength and vigour than I have ever been, and full of that joy my faith has brought to me. Through my sheer devotion, I have offered my affections to you, my God, many times in the hope that you will accept me, even if I do not marry.
When she was of age, Elizabeth was sent away to London, where she was to be prepared for society and marriage. She was not initially against the idea of marriage. In fact, she nearly was married to John Dryden, the poet's uncle, but he insulted her father, and the relationship between their families disintegrated. Elizabeth instead chose a life of spiritual reflection. She preferred the sweetness of a private life, as she put it, over the fashionable pursuits of a more public life.
I withhold from mentioning those who came to me in the way of marriage because their visits were not welcome. There was one suitor who visited more than any other. He reassured me that he was acquainted with my father and had my father's consent to make himself known to me, but I spoke to him cautiously. I did not know my father's mind on the matter, and so thought it wise to put him off many times by avoiding his company when I thought he might visit. Eventually, my uncle, who had written to my father about the awkward matter, received his reply, stating the man in question should not come. I suppose I should have welcomed marriage, but I thought my mind should not be slave to my body, for I could predict that I would need it for myself.
As time went on, it became ever more apparent that she would never marry. Instead, she chose the spiritual life. The Book of Remembrance was fuelled by the tragedy of her sister's death in 1638. Although Elizabeth stayed true to her word and abstained from marriage, her desire for a life of solitude became somewhat compromised. She took charge of her brother Sir Justinian's shambolic domestic affairs and became surrogate mother for his daughters when he went to Oxford to support the king during the Civil War. Elizabeth died in 1654 at the age of 45. She left the Book of Remembrance for their religious education. We are very lucky that 2 manuscripts of the book survive. One is at the Northamptonshire Record Office and the other is with Princeton University. Although Elizabeth's life was marred by tragedy, she has gifted us with one of the best, most intimate insights into a woman's life in the 17th century, as well as the first ever autobiography written in English.
I return to the examination of myself. We approach the anniversary of my sister's death, and although I had promised to be kinder to myself, given her unfortunate death is out of my control, I could not. I realise my melancholy humour feeds on the idea that I might die at the very same day and time of night that she did. A thought I wished and fixated upon. The following night I was so ill I could not sleep. Instead I walked to calm myself. The next day I was so overcome with a pain in my side that I was unable to move. I was afraid, and I blamed myself. But now, Lord, you have put me right. I can see now that death is not the answer to the love and affection I feel for my sister. Instead, it is to put my faith in you.
One of my favourite paintings. Sir Justinian bought this painting off Sir Maurice Vasa in 1655. As you already know, he was the brother of Elizabeth Isham. He was also the 2nd Baronet of Lamport. The baronetcy was bestowed on his father by James I in 1608. Sir Justinian lived from 1610 to 1675, and as the observant among you will have noted, he was a committed royalist. Sir Justinian never fought in the Civil War, but was very much an enemy of Cromwell. He was imprisoned several times, and his sister and her family were raided by Roundheads. His first wife, Jane Gerard, died in childbirth, leaving him with 4 daughters. Later, he would unsuccessfully try to woo Dorothy Osborne, hoping she would become his second wife, but she was not particularly keen. He did eventually remarry to Vere Lee, daughter of Lord Lee of Stoneleigh. Sir Justinian added much to the architecture of Lamport, employing John Webb, a pupil of Inigo Jones, to rebuild the chancel of the church and to add to the then entrance wing. Together with my fellow actors, we have devised a scene imagining what it was like when Sir Justinian was trying to woo Dorothy. Do have a look.
This is from Van Dyck's studio. I must say I am exceptionally proud of it.
You are exceptionally proud of everything, sir. That's why I call you the Emperor.
Please do not call me that. It is most unfair.
Perhaps I would not if you were not such a self-conceited coxcomb.
You aggrieve me greatly. You know I hold you in a very
high regard.
Please do not become serious, sir. You know I'm not in the mood for gravity.
I have serious feelings to discuss with you.
My goodness. And whose feelings are these?
Mine, of course.
Please, sir.
I am an honest man, a man of heart. I must speak my mind. Ever since the loss of my dear Jane, I have been wondering.
No, Sir Justinian.
I must tell you how I feel, Dorothy. Ever since Jane died, I have been wondering who could possibly take her place, who could possibly be a mother to my children. And then I met you, beautiful, lovely Dorothy.
No, Sir Justinian. I have no desire to be your wife, and you will not persuade me, no matter how much you persist. I am sorry for your pain, but you cannot heal it through me. Besides, I have a great many suitors, and to put it bluntly, you're not my preferred choice. I'm sorry, I must be cruel to be kind. There is another wife for you, I am sure, but she is not me. And with that, I will say my goodbyes. My darling Emperor.
This is Sir Thomas Isham. He was 3rd Baronet and son of Sir Justinian Isham, who bought the Van Dyke. Born in 1656, Sir Thomas's energetic nature can be detected from an early date. On November the 1st, 1671, aged 15, he began to chronicle everyday intrigues and events that took place at Lamport. Here is an extract from one of his accounts. 13th of December, 1672. About 11 or 12 o'clock tonight, a noise was heard in Mr. Wright's yard. The maids, who were washing dishes, heard someone beating on the window and breaking it as if trying to get in. Meanwhile, Wright, clad in only a nightshirt, ran through the house like a madman, and his son waited in the hall with a sword and holding a gun, ready to receive them with a volley. Juicy stuff, eh? Now, if you choose to view it, you can see a scene imagining Thomas Isham and his cousin and tutor Zacchaeus Isham preparing for their grand tour.
It is October 1676, and the pair are polishing their French and Italian.
Buongiorno, Zacchaeus.
No, buongiorno.
Mi scusa, buongiorno.
Bellissimo. Vuoi un altro bicchiere di vino?
Pardon?
Vuoi un altro bicchiere di vino?
Oh, sì, por favore.
Per favore.
Per favore.
Et maintenant, vous parlez en français?
Non, je n'aime pas le français.
Pourquoi?
Parce que ce n'est pas belle comme l'italien et aussi la française, ils sont l'ennemi, bien que j'aime bien la femme française.
L'aime
Oh,
française.
for God's sake.
Si vous prenez le nom du signor Revin, faites-le au moins en française.
Mon Dieu.
Excellent.
Comment vous courtisez une jeune femme?
Alors, on doit trouver son courage.
Voulez-vous danser avec moi?
Ah bon. Répétez-moi. Avez-vous le smallpox?
Avez-vous le smallpox? What?
It's worth asking. It's a big thing on the continent.
God. Rule 13. Beware intrigues with women.
Mais mon ami, en France, il y a beaucoup de vin.
Despite his own warning, Thomas returned home in August 1679 infected by the very disease. And his expensive escapade around Europe had virtually brought the family to its knees. Between his departure in October 1676 and his death in July 1681, his total expenditure amounted to some £8,000, or around £3 million today. Along with the cabinets, he lavished money on clothes and art, accumulating an astronomical debt. By 1681, he had come to a financial settlement with Abraham van den Bemde, who agreed to contribute £6,800 on the condition that Thomas would marry his daughter Mary. However, on July the 27th, 1681, the eve of his wedding, Thomas died of smallpox. This is Mary, portrayed by Helen. She was only 24 when she married Sir Justinian, the 8th Baronet, in 1812. Sir Justinian, not to be confused with Civil War Sir Justinian, was a man of very few words, so much so that he was known as the Silent Baronet. I imagine this was rather frustrating to live with. Mary was an enormous asset to the family, not just in terms of character, but she brought with her a dowry of £50,000. Mary is responsible for much of the hall you see today. She was incredibly practical. She wanted to create a modernised domestic environment for herself and her family.
Justinian! Justinian! I have been thinking. I love this house, but it's not very homely, do you not think? Which is why, I don't know if I mentioned, I have been talking to an excellent architect, Henry Hakewell. Well, he's been making different suggestions about how to make the house more modern, more suited to family life and entertaining. Anyway, he said that we should knock down half the old Tudor house, and frankly, I agree.
Sorry?
Oh, I knew you'd agree. You are always so attentive. I better have a look at the designs now. Good evening, darling.
Ah, now this is one of the kindest ancestors I have the privilege of being related to. Sir Charles Isham, 1819 to 1903. He had a wonderful wife, Emily Vaughan, who added many adjustments to the house. Sir Charles, on the other hand, loved the garden, particularly his rockery. He is well known for one particular addition to the English garden, the garden gnome. He was the first person to introduce the garden gnome to Britain, having come across them in Bavaria. If you scan the QR code, you will be able to have a look at Sir Charles pottering in his beloved garden. Sir Charles will be played by Sam.
It's no good you standing there and gawping up at me. Sooner or later, you are going to have to get back down those mines to earn your keep. You expect us to go back down the mines when half the workers have come down with diphtheria? Quite the little troublemaker, aren't you, sir?
Sir Charles was also a spiritualist, committed vegetarian, rare for Victorians, and well known for selflessness and generosity. On Sundays at church, during the agricultural depression of 1873 to 1896, he would rush round with the collection plate so fast that no one could put any money in. Sir Charles knew people were struggling and wouldn't let them donate, putting in money of his own instead.
Now it comes to little old me. As you know, I was the last Isham actually to live at Lamport. I was an actor for many years, but of course I answered the call to arms and fought in the Second World War, during which I became the 12th Baronet when my father died. After the war, I came back here and devoted my life to Lamport and to my partner, Trevor. However, poor maintenance, many years of it, and war took its toll, and we had the most ghastly outbreak of dry rot. In the 60s, we had to gut most of the house, and it became a huge financial burden. But I just couldn't let go of the place. I was too fond of it. I tried to interest the National Trust in taking it over, but they were put off by the rot. So in the end, I set up Lamport's very own Preservation Trust in 1974, which was also the first year the house was open to the public. Since then, it has undergone extensive renovation and is still looked after by the trust I founded. I do hope you have had an enjoyable visit, and please, come again soon.